Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this CNBC Africa special, putting a spotlight on this year's AfriLabs annual gathering. I'm your host, Tessie Cavan, and today we are diving into the heart of innovation and technology on the African continent. Our featured guests are pioneers, visionaries, and advocates for change in Africa's tech ecosystem. They're here to share their insights, experiences, and the exciting future of technology on the continent. To start us off, she's a trailblazer in the tech world, a fierce advocate for women in tech, and the CEO of Apps Tech. I spoke to Rebecca Enenchong, and she begins by sharing her journey with AfriLabs and how the organization is promoting innovation and entrepreneurship in Africa.
So we're part of the beginning of AfriLabs. So AfriLabs is a grassroots organization, as you know, and it was created by 5 hubs in 2011, one of which is Active Spaces, which is a hub that I co-founded and that I currently chair in Cameroon. And so we've been there from the beginning, and we've seen the growth, the incredible growth. That's just a reflection of the growth in the innovation space on the continent. You know, we started with 5 hubs in 2011. We now have over 460 member hubs in 53 African countries, 220 African cities, supporting over 1.5 million technology entrepreneurs. So I think it's just a reflection of the growth of the entire ecosystem.
Wow. How can African startups and entrepreneurs leverage the opportunities provided by AfriLabs to scale their businesses and reach new markets?
So we have a couple ways that we support the startups directly. One of them is through, obviously, our member hubs. So our member hubs host many of these startups, support these startups. We have a capacity building program that our hubs can go through, which is actually a full certification program that ends with a certificate from Strathmore University. So it's in Kenya. And so it's very, very thought through a curriculum so that our hubs, our member hubs, can better support the startups on how to raise money, how to be more sustainable, how to scale into different markets and things like that. Another way that we help startups through AfriLabs is through a program that we co-manage with an organization called ABAN. ABAN is the African Business Angels Network. And we have a matching fund. So this is actual cash that AfriLabs and ABAN are pouring into startups. So if an angel investor puts money into a startup that's in one of our hubs, an AfriLabs hub, then this program will double or triple that investment, up to 60,000 euro. So that's another way, that a very concrete way in which AfriLabs is supporting startups. And then obviously, again, the ability to scale from one market to another, because we have such a large community of hubs, is wherever a startup is trying to expand to, we have a hub there that's willing to help them and support them in scaling their business to that new country.
Now, what are some of the initiatives that Apps Tech is undertaking to promote innovation and entrepreneurship in Africa?
So Apps Tech is a business. It's my once a startup. So we're 24 years old. And I think that I always introduce myself first as a tech entrepreneur. And so I started a business, and I suffered through all of the heartache and successes and failures that many of our startups and many of our young entrepreneurs go through today. And so it was my experience with Apps Tech and what I've learned from it, and I wanted to be able to help young innovators not have to go through all the mistakes that I went through. And that's why I created Active Spaces, which is the African Center for Technology, Innovation and Ventures in Cameroon. We have 3 hubs today, but we started in 2010 with one hub to support technology entrepreneurs. And Active Spaces is then a founding member of AfriLabs.
Rebecca, speak to young people who would want, to have careers in tech. How can they benefit from, organizations like AfriLabs?
So AfriLabs we have this program. It's part of our capacity building program, and it's a training program. It's called the AfriLabs Academy. And as I said, it's both in English and in French, and it ends with a certification. So you actually get a diploma from Strathmore University when you've gone through it. It's completely free of charge, and it's open to anyone, anywhere. There is no restriction. Of course, we want you to be in one of our member hubs, but if you're not a member of AfriLabs, you can just go to, it's AfriLabs, it's academy.afrilabs.com. Go sign up, do the training at your own pace. It's interactive training, and get your diploma.
What do you see as a future of the African tech ecosystem?
So I think what we've shown and demonstrated is that it's an industry. And we would love African governments to recognize that it's not just where you send young people to do stuff because you can't find them jobs, right? It's actually an industry, and it's an export industry, and it can make African governments and our economies grow tremendously. We have seen it with mobile. We've seen the transformation and the impact of mobile. If we can do it in mobile, we can do it across the technology industry. We don't lack talent. We lack opportunity. And so I think that we can transform our economies using technology.
And finally, what would you want some of the key takeaways to be for the attendees of this year's gathering as they go, and how would you want them to apply, to their daily work?
Yeah, so I think that we'll have many, classes and workshops and things like that. Those are always important. But I think seeing the results of collaboration, right? So we've collaborated during previous annual gatherings that we've had in different countries, and we've seen the impact on the ground of that collaboration. And so given that collaboration drives impact, collaborate, work together, the hubs working together, the government and the hubs working together to build a stronger innovation ecosystem.
Anna Ekelero is the brilliant mind behind AfriLabs. She is the executive director and the driving force behind AfriLabs' mission to support African tech hubs and startups.
We started out in 2011, right, about 12 years ago, with 5 innovation hub members across 4 African countries. And basically what we set out to do at that time was to build a community around innovation hubs who all had physical spaces and who supported entrepreneurs on the continent to build their ideas into successful businesses and the likes. Now, since then, our growth has been quite immense. We've grown to over 400 member hubs across 53 African countries and over 200 African cities. But what makes it really exciting is that we also have an expanded network as well of investors, of development partners, corporate organizations, and policymakers all working with us to support, entrepreneurs on the continent and innovators. Now, in terms of impact, we've also grown from supporting the community, from building the community to actively supporting the community through capacity building, through funding as well, both to innovation hubs and to startups. And I'll give you a couple of examples, right? So one of our signature programs is the AfriLabs Capacity Building Program. And it's a 3-year program, which we're extending now, which is focused on building the capacity of innovation hubs and technology hubs on the continent. And with that, we've built a full hub management curriculum, the first of its kind on the African continent, where anybody who is passionate about supporting innovators, startups, can actually go on AfriLabs Academy, which is an e-learning platform, and learn, right? And then when you take the courses, it's actually certified. So you get a certification which you can use to, if you want to use it to access a job or to, improve your skills and the likes. So that has supported, hubs become better, and hubs have actually reported providing better support to entrepreneurs. We've have hubs that have gone through our capacity building programs, both physical workshops, webinars, AfriLabs Academy that have actually set up centers in other locations, as well as rural areas, that need that support as well. Another initiative of ours that has immensely impacted the ecosystem and what we're now looking to scale is Catalytic Africa, which is a matching fund which we set up with the Africa Business Angel Network, ABAN. And basically, it's connecting the entrepreneurs within the AfriLabs network, entrepreneurs and startups, to the angel investors within the angel networks at ABAN. And once an investment is made, we match it with a matching fund, and what that does is that it de-risks the investment of the investors, So what we've seen is a significant increase in angel investors, African angel investors now saying, you know what, we're going to look at startups as an asset class because because the investment will be de-risked, by the matching grants, and there will be follow-on support as well by the innovation hubs, which we, connect them to as well.
Coming back to the annual gathering 2023, I'm really interested in the theme, this year's theme, that is accelerating Africa's digital economy by the strength of our community. What inspired this theme?
Our community, so as I've said, we've seen, since we've grown, we've grown the size of our community, but we've also grown the reach, right? We've seen that our community working together can really accelerate growth, right? Can accelerate economic growth, social development in countries' policies. We've been part of quite a number of policy drives, for example, advocating for governments to set up favorable policies for startups and entrepreneurs, like the likes of the Startup Act, for example, first passed in Tunisia, but also in Senegal, Nigeria, and other countries as well. Those were community efforts coming together and dialoguing with the government as well. We've seen how capital investments. I mean, we now have governments who set up fund of funds directly to startups as well. Never heard of before, considering the fact that startups are considered to be high risk when it comes to investment, but governments are now saying, you know what, we're going to also invest in startups, either directly or as a matching fund, but also looking at a Pan-African scale, the harmonization of policies as well. With the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, but also now looking at the negotiations of digital protocol. The only way those were able to happen is by people coming together, the government coming together and saying, yes, we want to do this, but also the private sector, the civil society, the innovation community coming together and saying, no, we need this too. So let's make it happen. So for us, if we are going to grow as an African continent, right, and really realize the potential of digital economy to improve lives, to create wealth and to create prosperity for all in Africa, then we have to come together to do it, right, as a community. And that's the idea. We need to work together to really drive the sorts of strategies that are needed, not just from interventions and funding, but also even on a policy level, collaborating to even support each other. For example, just by virtue of being part of our community, if there's a startup that wants to scale to another African country, our hubs provide a soft landing pad, and earlier today, we chaired, as part of the gathering, a high-level multi-stakeholder dialogue. And a lot of the conversations were around creating a soft landing pad for startups to scale. Because these markets are, fragmented markets as individuals, but the startups can be much more successful if they look at Africa as a single market, which is what the African Continental Free Trade Area is about. But without the support on ground in other locations, they're not likely to succeed. So that's the strength of our community, accelerating Africa's digital economy. And again, earlier today, when I gave a speech, I spoke about how the studies show that by 2050, our Africa's digital economy will be up to $712 billion. I say $1 trillion in the next 10 years. Why and how? It has to be by the strength of our community.
You actually alluded to my next question, because I wanted to ask how startups can actually, leverage on what the platform that AfriLabs offers, to scale into new markets.
Yes, I mean, what I would say is AfriLabs creates a platform to connect the innovation hubs, but also build their capacity, right? Build a capacity and also provide the funding for them to better support startups, right? So for startups to take advantage of all these resources and the strengthen the innovation hubs and the connection and the likes, they need to connect, they need to plug in, they need to, even on our website, you can even go and find out the innovation hub in your city, We're in over 200 African cities on the continent, you know, so the startups can connect. And then when they connect, they walk in, they have a conversation about what's needed. And I would say not every startup is a fit for an innovation hub, you know, so sometimes you need to even understand, is it an early stage startup? You know, are they connecting with an incubator? Is it a startup that needs accelerator support services and the like? So that's the first step. Now, in terms of scaling, it's through the hubs. So once you're connected with an innovation hub, the hub is connected with, you know, other hubs in other locations. And it happens constantly on our platform. You hear inquiries that say, you know what, I have a startup, I'm in Ghana, I want to scale to Rwanda, I want to scale to South Africa, you know, or Nigeria, can you help? You know, and we've had successful case studies that have come out of those. And the startups from one hub in one location connect to the other, and they, you know, Africa is a unique market and all that. You need people to literally open certain doors for you, you know, whether you're a startup trying to get your license to operate in a new country, or even a visa to work in that country, or hire staff, or, you know, movement of capital and the like. So that's the support that hubs provide in local markets for other startups to scale.
I'm glad you mentioned success stories. Do you have some that have emerged from AfriLabs?
Yeah, we do have a number of startups that, in various ways, right? So I'll tell you an example is Ventures platform, right? Ventures platform, which has Ventures Fund in Nigeria, and they have not only do they support the startups through accelerator, you know, support or capacity building services, but they also have a fund, you know, and they invest in startups. And one of the startups they invested in was Flutterwave. You know, then this was about, you know, 2016, 2017. And Flutterwave was one of our successful exits on the continent, you know, being acquired for over $200 million. So that's an example, you know, of a successful case study. Under Catalytic Africa program, which I mentioned earlier with AfriLabs and ABAN, we do have quite a number of startups. We have BSAL, for example, a Cameroonian startup. We gave them, the Cameroonian Angel Network invested about 20,000 euros. We matched it with about 60,000 euros. And since then, they've gone on to raise follow-on funding and also been admitted into an international accelerator. You know, so those are some of the success stories and more. I mean, I could go on and on.
Great. Anna, from where you sit, what do you see as the future of the tech ecosystem in Africa?
Oh, that's a very heavy question. Yes, so the future of tech ecosystem, well, first contribute to the economic development of the continent. You know, I mentioned why stop at 700, you know, number of years. We should be thinking, you know, $1 trillion in terms of the value of our digital economy. So I see the tech ecosystem contributing significantly to that. I also see the tech ecosystem increasingly, and just, again, not as a subset, but integrated across industries, you know, being instrumental in digitalization of industries, of sectors. So when we talk about health, for example, and you know, I foresee a future when we're not having a conversation about people not having access to quality healthcare, right? Because the solutions exist in the tech ecosystem, you know, and other stakeholders are, you know, leveraging those solutions, right, to provide the services. Or, you know, children being out of school, you know, not having access to education. I see the tech ecosystem providing those solutions as well. When we talk about infrastructure, right, which I feel is the bedrock of the tech ecosystem and the digital economy, you know, I do see us being quite instrumental in even making that happen, and it's already happening. The policy advocacy activities that go on. An example is our policy pathways, which is a document that AfriLabs launched last year, and it basically lists out and explains 10 key policy priority areas for governments to focus on, you know, from digital skilling and inclusion to the harmonization of policies, startup policies, digital rights, and the likes, you know, and infrastructure and digital finance is a very key component, you know. So we've already started advocating for these things. So I see a future where, because of the tech ecosystem, right, we have broadband connectivity at every single village on the continent, you know, and everyone is plugged in, not just within Africa, but they're plugged into the global market, and they can access jobs, they can access markets, they can make lives better because, you know, they can trade. Right, these are the contributions I see of the tech ecosystem.
Very last question. What is the one message that you would want the attendees of this year's gathering to go home with?
Yes, the one message, I have many. Yes, but the one message is lead with light, with responsibility, and a resolve to change things through the digital economy. Yeah.
And finally, our last guest is a multifaceted Nigerian artist, rapper, singer, songwriter, and record producer. Jude Lemfani Abaga, commonly known by his stage name M.I. Abaga, is also founder and CEO of The Task.
I heard about this vision. I heard about AfriLabs and what they've been doing like 3 months ago. And it just seemed to me to be such a transformative idea. The idea that communities were building a super community, and around the idea of developing Africa. And then you meet the team from Anna down. It's like really passionate, transformative African leaders, courageous. To pull this off in Rwanda, it's really been something amazing. And coming here has been like, very, very, it's been a very good experience. Like the program has been fantastic. I've connected with amazing entrepreneurs from around the continent, and I've heard a lot of amazing ideas. Like, truly, Africa is in safe hands if it allows its young leaders to lead.
If you look into your crystal ball, how do you see the technology ecosystem evolving, and how do you see AfriLab playing a role in all of it?
Technology is the fuel for Africa to catch up and overtake the rest of the world. One of the exciting things in Nigeria is seeing that this new government has appointed a really visionary leader in Bosun Tijani, someone that was there when they were breaking, when the cornerstone was being laid in Nigerian tech ecosystem, he was there. And, and the work he's doing is fantastic. And I say that to say that I believe that the key is that there have to be, I'm coming back to something I said before, there have to be massive African companies, massive African ecosystem builders that will enable this sort of ecosystem building at scale. And so when I look at AfriLabs, the exciting thing is because that is what the project is. The project is around really connecting communities and unlocking the power of that community. So as a new founder walking into this space, I've hung around with some of the most innovative people, founders I've wanted to sit and talk to, people that are at different places in the funding value chain who are able to give me real insight. Sometimes sometimes you're pitching, you want to talk to the person that makes a decision, but the rest of the time, questions are more valuable and to learn how things are being framed. And so I say that to say, what AfriLabs is doing is transformative, and leaders like Anna, teams like the team, I've met so many people from the team, I've heard about the governance. These are the sort of companies that we must all support, and make sure that they are successful because they will develop Africa.
As a new entrant into the tech space, as you had said,
Baby boy.
baby boy.
Yeah.
Are there new projects that you're working on, and are there any of them that relate to the, the themes of innovation and growth in Africa?
So Task is on a mission to connect creatives to opportunities, and what that means for us is to understand the challenge that an African creative deals with today, and to build the bridge, whatever the terrain looks like. Through my own personal journey, I can give you first-hand experience. And this is someone that I've run one of the most powerful labels in the continent, Chocolate City. I've facilitated the growth of artists from Whiskey to CK. I've really been at a very high level in the industry, and I still tell you, it's too difficult to make it. And so with Task, we want to construct that bridge. And what that looks like for us is solving 3 key issues for artists. Is number one, that they need to be able to have admin tools where they don't have to spend a lot of time figuring out how to construct an industry for themselves while they build. They need to be able to find opportunities quicker, have a platform where if I've done this amount of work, someone in China that's looking for African art, as this global moment expands, can find me very easily. And last but not least, when I have a project and I'm trying to figure out how to get it done, can we give them some support around that? We have 3 pillars. Social impact. I see our African creatives being leaders in terms of developing Africa. I'm not just talking about being the talent. I'm talking about them leading foundations, leading causes, using their platforms for change, owning festivals in communities, investing in studios, really plugging in and being owners in the value chain of developing Africa. And so social impact is one of our key pillars. Learning is another key pillar. I also believe that African creatives should train African creatives, the next generation. Don't die with that knowledge. You know, there's an economy there to be built around us, teaching each other and learning from each other, helping each other grow projects. And there's so many young Africans that will partake in this economy, this knowledge economy. And the last thing is around building community. What does Ubuntu look like within the creative sector? And so we're early stage startup. You're going to continue hearing more about us. We just did a conference called Ignite, and it was 7 days of thematic issues around the SDGs, and we're connecting advocacy partners to creatives. It's truly transformative, and creatives are now starting to, I mean, in Nigeria you see it a lot. People like Files, people like Mr. Macaroni, DJ Switch have used their platform, even sometimes at the cost of their safety, you know, to speak for social issues. And now we want to do it in an organized way so that these creatives can thrive while they give.
Thank you for watching this CNBC Africa special, where we featured this year's AfriLabs annual gathering that took place right here in Kigali, Rwanda. Until next time, bye for now.